What are we doing?
Reacting.
Ah! 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 React! 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 Not touching, can't be mad.
You're literally touching.
See? I got a reaction. Ah, no!
So today we're reacting to people's curious kinks.
Are we telling them or me?
Curious kinks.
Thank God I'm not a cat.
Why?
Curiosity killed the cat.
Contain your chastity belt, Brenda. Calm your tit clamps, Karen. And bolster your bondage, Brenda. Today we're reacting to your curious kinks. React! Ah!
Is that good?
Yeah, roll the opening.
Hello!
Welcome back to
What's Safeword?
I'm Amp.
I'm Mr. Christopher.
And today
We are overreacting.
No, just react, not overreact.
Some of us are gonna overreact.
So, last week, in the spirit of destigmatizing kinks and just making sex more normal because you wouldn't be here without it, we decided to do a survey where we asked you for some of your curious kinks.
Ah! Is that good?
God.
I'm practicing.
Well, that was your reaction.
That was my reaction.
Oh, this is gonna be a long episode.
It's gonna be long.
So we put up a Google form where we asked for your anonymous responses as far as some kinks that might be a little more curious out there or that just need to be covered and talked about. And while I was only expecting a few, we had over 200.
Oh my God, anything we haven't heard of yet?
We'll find out.
Okay. But we won't shame you for it.
Unless that's your thing, Kevin. And Kevin, if you're listening and watching, you know, it's okay to be okay with like, if kink shaming is your kink, like.
You kinky little I want to learn some new kinks.
Oh, well, you might today.
I know, I can't wait.
And we're doing this episode because we always like destigmatizing kinks. But until a few years ago, it used to be that your kinks and fetishes could actually be used against you in family court. So saying you enjoy to be tied up or asking your partner to show them your foot fetish used to be something that could, you know, get you in trouble. But in 2013, the DSM, or the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, actually said that kinks and fetishes, or paraphilia, are no longer a mental disorder.
Phew. So consenting adults are no longer considered crazy.
Unless it gets in the way of your life and health and whatnot, but that's beside the point.
So this is a great development because back in my day, being kinky could make you lose your job, lose your house, get you in trouble with your spouse, all sorts of problems.
Did you mean for that to rhyme? Lose a house, get in trouble with your spouse, ruin a blouse.
You couldn't do it on a train, you couldn't do it on a plane, you couldn't do it.
You'd be considered insane. So it's nice to see that we're able to have more open conversations like this, and even though this video will be demonetized because YouTube hates contextualizing weird education in any sort of way.
Actually, I just think they hate us now.
It doesn't matter because today's sponsor, Helix Sleep, is going to make sure that you not only are able to have your kinks in the bedroom, but keep it out of your mattress. So thank you again, Helix Sleep, for sponsoring today's episode.
Yes, thank you, Helix, for letting us be kinky.
And for getting a better night's sleep.
Okay, I do not have that fetish. I don't have the snore fetish.
Some people.
First kink.
So the first round of kinks that I pulled out of our survey, and there was actually a trend here, I happened to fall into, actually 1% of the entire survey was into this kink. And it goes, I'm into clowns.
Hiya, Georgie.
Specifically, dressing up as a classic circus clown. All the makeup, costumes, accessories, and then playing the part of the stooge. Being ridiculous, being the butt of the jokes, getting pied, and being done just like a goofball. But to be clear, I'm not into the scary clown.
Hiya, Georgie.
Yeah, so what is it about clowns that people associate with being scary?
Well, people like clowning around.
Clowns are fun. I used to love them as a kid. I don't understand why people were so scared of clowns. I get it as a fetish. Big feet, big everything else.
Being silly, having fun, which you should in your kink. But I'm actually curious, as you're going down on them, do you think they taste funny?
No, but they say, ong dong.
Seriously, there was a huge amount, again, 1% of 200 people that were talking about clowns as like one of their kinks that they're feeling a little weird about, that they don't tell everyone about, which I think is kind of strange because it seems like such a fun thing. I mean, there was one person that said they were into just being a clown. There was one person that said they just like to be dressed up. And then there was one person that said they like being transformed into a clown against their will.
Wow, how do you do that?
I mean, there's lots of kinks out there and a lot of transformative stuff, and we'll get into more of that later too, because spoiler alert, there's a lot of it.
I was was once at a birthday party where a party entertainer named Ouchie the Clown is in a harness appeared, and everybody loved Ouchie the Clown. He came with a whip and he paddled the birthday boy. It was really good. I think I might be Ouchie the Clown when I grow up. That's my retirement.
Okay. And apparently we're also coming out with some of our curious kinks today as well.
Clown Daddy.
I think it's also important to kind of talk about and destigmatize how kinks or fetishes are even formed. But they say that some people actually form their kinks due to trauma. So let's say you go to the circus as a child and maybe you have a traumatic experience. Or maybe you're just fascinated as a child.
And then you form a fetish around that?
Yeah, and then you have this fascination that actually forms into something a little bit more personal.
Well, that makes sense, because some kinks, being on edge and being scared, is what rushes your adrenaline. So if you're embracing your fears, that could be fun.
I mean, fear and pleasure are very similar in a lot of ways as far as, you know. Would you want a pie in the face, though? Does that turn you on?
Pie turns me on, so maybe I just have an eating fetish,
but
but you didn't throw a pie at me.
Or how about this one that kind of also was along the lines of like the fear-based? This person says, I have a huge fantasy of a monster hypnotizing me into believing that they deserve to eat me because they're so superior in every way, persuading me that the most meaningful thing I could do with my life is to serve them and then be their next meal. That is so interesting. Not only being hypnotized by a monster, but then being eaten by it, which is a whole kink in itself that we'll get into later, actually. Have you ever heard of vor?
No, but I've heard of feed me, Seymour. Eat me. Eat me.
In fact, vor and just eating related kinks in general, where you're eating something or someone possibly, came up about 25 times. So that's still quite a bit in a huge survey like that.
Would you say it gave you a voracious appetite?
Food for thought. As we go through this, would you consider that a kink or a fetish?
What's the difference between a kink and a fetish?
Well, actually, there is a big distinction between kink and fetish, and while both terms are used kind of like an umbrella way, like we use the word kink when we talk about fetish, and sometimes we use fetish when we talk about kink, but there is a distinction. A kink is just something that is an abnormal sort of sexual interest. So it's anything that's not vanilla. So that could be a number of things. In fact, fetish falls under kink because fetish is a form of sexual desire in which gratification is linked to an abnormal degree or a particular body part, item of clothing, object, or just something a little bit more obscure but specific. And you cannot get off without having that as part of your sexual experience.
Like cherry pie.
If you had a fetish and you could
cherry pie.
If you could not get off
cherry pie
or be aroused
cherry pie
without
cherry pie,
then yeah, that could be a fetish. That's not one of ours today, but that is the distinction. Kink is kind of more of an umbrella term, where it's just more broad, but it's something that you could add into the bedroom that makes it more fun and interesting, say like bondage or something like that. But let's say you cannot get off or be aroused without being tied in bondage. That would be a fetish for you then.
That makes sense. Okay, so what if a fetish causes discomfort or distress, or you're hyper-focused on it?
If it's causing discomfort, distress, maybe being problematic in your life, that is something that could still be treated as a clinical problem, a paraphilic disorder. Now that, under the DSM, is still a thing. Whereas we're a little bit more open about fetishes that we can just enjoy or kinks that we just have fun with consenting adults, because that's not weird. That just has been proven to give you a better sex life, to have a better relationship. And that's why kinks and fetishes can be okay.
That makes sense.
But also, whomst among us hasn't used kink to mean fetish and fetish to mean kink before? The terms are so interchangeable. Also, whomst the fuck uses the words whomst? Oh, yeah. Next kink. Oh, actually, this next one, this one also includes a little bit more monster mashing. And it goes, it only exists in writing and occasionally some animated videos, but growth or body transformation porn is my kink.
Yeah.
Guys either control or can't control their bodies, changing into hairy, chubby, muscular, maybe more animalistic, where their proportions are getting incredibly extra.
You're extra.
Let me finish. For example, what if they had two penises? Sometimes being turned into a monster or a furry or just being corrupted and unable to control what you're becoming is incredibly hot.
I get that.
Brave yet controversial. I get the furry porn. Am I a furry? But I understand that the whole transformation thing, like the werewolf scenes in some movies, are kind of really hot.
Calm down now.
I get the 2 penis porn. Can you imagine having 2?
But also transformative sorts of porn or situations are a big thing when it comes to erotica.
Well, look at Teen Wolf.
What am I looking at, Teen Wolf?
Do you think
Werewolves.
people got off on Teen Wolf transforming? I mean, come on.
Oh.
Honey, he was ingenue, honey.
The Teen Wolf fanfic universe, I get it. There's a Teen Wolf. Next kink.
Do I have to have the metal claws?
That's Wolverine, not a werewolf.
What?
The next curiosity says, I don't know if it would be obscure or what term I would use, but it's definitely taboo. Which, quick side note, taboo things are based on society standards.
Just socially unacceptable.
A lot of these obscure kinks, and I use obscure in quotes because it is something a little bit different, are obscure because people feel stigmatized and they feel like they can't talk about this without being judged. And that's why this is anonymous as well. No names were collected in any of this. But I just feel bad. I felt so bad reading a lot of these because people clearly just are hung up on something that makes them feel good, that doesn't harm anyone.
And obviously, we're giving them a safe space to do so.
Absolutely. And we're not doing it in like a ha 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 laughing at them sort of way. If anything, we're laughing with them and normalizing that, like, yeah, we're all into something weird.
Oh, and I want to be turned on by something new.
Same. And I might have gotten a few awkward boners from someone. Multiple, maybe, if I had 2 penises.
I was just about to go there.
Anyway, this goes on to say, I have a huge CNC. Do you know what that means?
Computer nerd computer.
I'll give you the first word, consensual.
Consensual nerd computer.
I have a huge CNC, sensual non-consent kink.
Oh.
The more detailed, the better. I'm talking full-on rip off my clothes, pin me down, tie me up, slap me and call me names for fighting back.
No, don't. Stop. Don't. Stop.
Wait, don't
stop.
stop.
Don't stop.
Don't-
Don't stop.
oh, okay,
Don't
okay.
stop.
Let me
Don't
finish.
stop.
Honestly, I used to feel odd about them until I joined an online community where people openly talked about it. Now I'm pretty accepting. I just know both CNC, which is,
Consensual non-consent.
and darker sorts of edge play get a lot of shame online and in our communities.
Yeah, and I do this a lot during role play and in my scenes where it's a fantasy that this is against your will. But as soon as the scene's over, we're back to reality. Nobody has harmed you in any physical way, but you at least got to play out that fantasy.
There was upwards of 30 people that had used CNC, consensual non-consent, or talked about blurred lines in consensual fantasies throughout our survey. In fact, there was even a study in Psychology Today by Samuel Hughes where he surveyed a group of FetLife users about their kinks in order to study where they come from, but also to analyze their earliest memories of kinksters and how the failure to overcome stigma can lead to anxiety, depression, and even just some really, really dark places.
So does that make me a psychologist?
No. But you do provide therapeutic sorts of feelings to some people when you go through those really intense scenes. And through this study, they found that a lot of people that did do the CNC sorts of play were doing it to overcome trauma or work through some issues that they had in a safe environment with someone that they trusted. Or how about this one? This curiosity says, one of the hottest scenes I've ever been in. I walked in, was stripped, gagged, put in a 5-point shackles system in order to start cleaning his flat. It's when I discovered I had a domestic servitude kink.
And can you get their number, please?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean...
I could use one of those around here. This is a little dusty.
Which you never want to hear your private parts referred to as dusty. Ironically, because kinks and fetishes are sometimes seen as dirty, this one actually seems very clean. But also, I know people that used to do naked house cleaning in the city. They would charge someone, honestly it should have been the other way around, but they charged someone, would clean their place nude while the person was, doing their work from home stuff maybe, and everyone got a little bit of something out of it.
And seriously, if this is your kink, call me.
You would certainly clean up. I'm not kink shaming, unless Kevin, you want it. You want it? Yeah.
Kevin, run! Speaking of kink shaming,
that leads us to today's sponsor, who makes this episode not only possible, but makes it so that we can create content and keep the lights on.
And they never shame us for it.
But we are gonna kink shame you if you have kinks in your bed, because today's sponsor is Helix Sleep. If you'd like to keep kinks out of your mattress, well, the uncomfortable kind,
then today's sponsor is sure to give you a better night's sleep. Helix Sleep makes premium mattresses and bedding that are customized to fit your needs and conveniently shipped in a nice, sturdy box. And Helix knows that everybody sleeps a little bit different, so they made a wonderful quiz that matches your unique body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you.
And whether you're buying a mattress for yourself or for you and a partner, they do have a Helix Sleep quiz that allows you to get the right firmness, the right softness, the right position that you want to take in the bedroom, whether you're top, bottom, or just going to lay on your side.
And you're gonna get a voracious night's sleep.
And while I usually sleep on my side and Daddy usually sleeps on his back, after taking our Helix Sleep quiz, we found the perfect mattress for us. And it was a Midnight Luxe. Beyond that, our favorite part of the process is unboxing the mattress, which we got to do twice with each of our mattresses. You unroll it, you unbox it, you let Daddy play around a little bit.
Hello. Wait, where are you going? No, come back.
And then as soon as you cut it out of that bag, it starts to inflate magically.
Listen to it. Shh. ASM, are you ready for comfort?
And something we've never mentioned before is that Helix is actually a top-rated bed for sex, as each Helix mattress is made up of using high-end materials in a hybrid construction of foam and springs, so it cradles your body while you sleep, but provides the perfect bounce for when you're having a little bit of sexy time. Ships right to your door for free.
And you even get 100 days to try out your mattress, because Helix Sleep makes sure that you get the right mattress for you.
And you're gonna get a voracious night's sleep.
Regardless, I love my Helix mattress, and I know you will too. So if you're looking for a new bed, check out Helix and click the link down below and go to helixsleep.com using offer code WATT for up to $200 off your Helix mattress and some free pillows on us.
Maybe you're into just watching someone sleep. Maybe that's your kink.
Maybe
Get
you want
into
to
it
throw them in bed and eat them voraciously.
with comfortable pillows and a mattress.
Because comfort is key.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It is.
Thank you, Helix Sleep.
Now on to the kinks that we do want in the bedroom. The next one says, this one I had to double take, let's just say. And it goes, I don't know if this counts as a kink, but I'm really into women and NB, or non-binary people, with slightly crossed eyes, especially if their crossed eyes give them an impression that they're looking slightly off to the side when they're actually looking right at you. It stems from someone I knew in college who had that look and was the first person who ever confessed them being into me. Oh. It's kind of sweet in a way. It goes on to say, we never dated, and I've actually never sought out or dated someone with that characteristic, but it still makes my heart skip a beat every time.
I kind of get this one because I had a dom who was a little cross-eyed, and I was always on edge because I felt like I was always doing something wrong because
He was always side-eyeing you?
He was side-eyeing me all the time. I was like, sorry, sir. Sorry.
Would you say you were prescribed that kink? Prescription.
Well, looking back on it, it's kind of 2020.
Goodbye. Again, we are not here to kink shame, unless Kevin, this is your kink, in which case you dirty little, ooh, you should feel so bad about those things that are fine to be into because we're not stigmatizing you, but we are shaming you.
You're a terrible dom.
Fine, here's some food for thought then with this next kink that says, I'm into vorophilia.
Didn't we already do this one?
We touched base on this. It's called a foreshadowing. We were foreshadowing previously. Anyway, it goes on to say, the idea of being eaten has always turned me on. A lot of vorophiles had experiences in their childhood that led to that fetish, and I personally had it ever since I could remember. I would always love reading, rereading scenes in comics and books where characters got eaten as a kid.
That's a vorable.
I'm upset I didn't have that one in my back pocket. I can only stomach so many jokes.
Points.
So vore's a kink that revolves around eating or being eaten, and there's a soft vore and a hard vore.
Yeah, there is. I'm hardcore. I'm a carnivore.
Ironically. Soft vore is when someone's just swallowed alive, they might not be digested, but it's just kind of like a sensual feeling of like going inside of someone's body, so I kind of get it. And soft vore is non-fatal, where there's a hard vore, where it gets graphic and people are, you know, again, fantasizing, there's no cannibalism here, but fantasizing the whole situation.
Is it very vory?
But again, this one was so, like, people were apologizing for being into this in some of the confessions, but vore, blood play, and other kinks that revolved around a little bit more gory, voracious topics came up a total of 20 times in the survey.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
People are really into that kind of like darker, like vampires, monsters were huge hits.
Well, that makes sense because you see it in popular culture.
Mm-hmm.
So popular culture does tap into parts of our sexual interest.
Yeah. The way that tropes in cartoons and pop culture drive a lot of our kinks and fetishes is not surprising whatsoever. Hypno, vore, werewolves and like transformation stuff, it's all over kids' cartoons.
I agree.
And it's no wonder that it then kind of seeps in and almost
Permeates your brain, which is a whole nother fetish.
no, next fetish. And it goes, so pre-COVID-19, I was very much into, and honestly still am, the idea of a guy sneezing on me, getting his snot all over my mouth, and getting me sick.
What? Okay, that's new.
Again,
Well, I guess
well, not my thing.
it's kind of like edge play, because, you know, it could actually even be deadly, kind of, in the age of COVID. So it's kind of like breath control, breath play. I don't know. That's a
But
weird
there's
one.
a bit of trauma to it too. When you get
Yeah.
sick, like that's not fun. Honestly, whenever I'm sick with a cold, I'm actually really horny. I don't know if you're
Yeah, no, because
You-
you're laying there by yourself and you're stewing in your own thoughts and
filth.
filth. You're literally stewing in your own filth.
So I kind of get it in a gunge sort of mess play sort of way.
And I like spitting during a scene, so I get that. But sneezing, that's a whole new level for me.
Oh, and some people love when you sneeze. They love that reaction, you know.
Yeah, take that, boy. Achoo! Yeah, achoo! I don't know if I can do it on command, but...
Which actually kind of leads us to a conversation about diversity and what we're into, but also what is called divergent thinking. And this is people that kind of see when maybe they're sick, you know, and they're like, oh, I'm really horny for some reason. I wonder why that is. And they start thinking about why they might have a bit of arousal or a boner or just be fixated on something.
Yeah, I never think that hard.
Well,
I just get hard.
it's thought that divergent thinkers within this study were actually the ones that helped to create fetishes and just show us that there is literally no limit to the amount of fetishes that exist out there.
The sneeze is the limit.
The limit does not exist.
In fact, Hirschfield, a sexologist, once said, the number of fetishes is unlimited. From head to toe, there is not a single spot on the body, and from hats to shoes, there is not a fold in a garment that cannot trigger a fetishistic pleasure.
Huh.
I agree.
Like my knuckle.
Yeah, someone's into your knuckle.
Yeah.
Knucklephilia.
My knuckle feel, yeah.
Oh.
I think they call that fisting, though.
The next one says, pregnancy and lactation. That's what it's labeled. I'm a queer cis woman and absolutely no desire to ever have kids. But I feel reading porn about getting milked to be really hot. Even though, again, I'm super not into anything happening IRL. I think I find it hot because it's the pinnacle of having power and autonomy taken away, to the point where even my body is changing massively for a partner's desire, albeit an extension that'll remain firmly a fantasy.
I actually get this a lot on Twitter because people are fascinated with my nipples, and I get lots of people asking if they lactate or they can milk them.
That is not surprising.
And actually, I kind of think it's hot. Mine don't.
Just to let you know.
Not yet.
Would it be 1% or 2%?
That'd be daddy percent.
You really had to get that off your breast, didn't you?
I get it.
Again, we're getting some of that CNC in there. We're getting some forced fantasies that you're working through, but also talking about a bodily function that tends to be very heteronormative in some ways. And fetishizing that almost to a way in which you're not only not having autonomy over the changes of your body, but it's something that was brought on or a transformation that was caused by a relationship that you have with someone.
And lots of people get turned on by the fantasy of just being milked.
Yeah, humans are fascinating. Don't you love humans?
Fascinating. You put a kink in everything. Let's move on before we curdle.
Are you ready for the next kink?
I'm always ready for the next kink.
Are you feeling pampered?
ABDL.
Am I patting this one?
ABDL.
The next one goes on to say diapers.
ABDL.
On other people, I like it nice, thick, hairy, bald, bearded bear type wearing nothing but a diaper casually going about their day. Seriously, candid diapers are so hot. Sexy time diapers, also hot, but that's a given. It's honestly not that weird in terms of the number of people who are into it. Dig around enough and you'll find it. There's just a lot of people that don't want to talk about their thick, crinkly diapers in the open. I think it just has to do a lot with exposure due to stigma and a few bad apples that have given everyone else a bad name.
Sure, I've seen this kink on the rise, especially on Twitter, and lots of people getting into it.
And I'm not pissed about it either. Because it's something that people they feel like there's this stigma about just enjoying something that has to do with their bodily functions that they can't control in some situation. Because honestly, that's what turns some people on is like, forced using diapers or using the diaper instead of going to a bathroom. It's an interesting way and an interesting kind of power play that gives people either a loss of control or more control over what they're doing and how they do it.
It's the same as in like chastity play where you're no longer in control of your genitals.
I get it. It does depend though why you're using a diaper and how. And diapers were mentioned in, again, 20 of the entries. Whether it was around putting someone in it, wearing it, being forced into it, there's so much you can do with that diaper play depending on how creative you are.
But if you're really into it, could I just give you some huggies?
You know, there was actually a few people that were talking about in our threads that they couldn't get off without wearing a diaper. And that's where it gets into that fetish category, especially when we talk about one of the studies around kinks and fetishes that had to revolve around wearables or wearing something. In 2013, they did a study around somatosensory conditioning in which they put around sexual desire, arousal, and copulatory behavior, where they put two groups of rats into these sexual situations. They were breeding rats. One group was only ever allowed to wear backpacks whenever they were in their sexual situations. They had little like tiny rat backpacks. It was so cute. While the other just went without a backpack. They didn't get anything, you know?
You say tomato, I say tomato.
And I say they then studied the rats and allowed them into these sexual behaviors and almost conditioned them in such a way where one group of rats, once the backpacks were off, could not ejaculate. But the other rats, the ones that never even wore the backpacks in the first place, that weren't conditioned to have sex with the backpack on, were just fine. And it was this interesting study.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do rats ejaculate?
Why is that the question?
Because I'm just picturing little rats.
No, they were having sex.
Oh.
They would have sex. This is a study. I didn't study this. I'm just reporting, okay? And while this study was a little cheesy, it does show us that people can condition themselves into their sexual behaviors and how they become aroused and get off. Some people can't get off without their certain fetishes, and while that's okay, if it is causing distress or harm, again, that's where you might want to step in and find a professional to help you work through it. But again, I don't think there's anything wrong with being in a situation where you get off to your fetishes. Aw, rats.
I feel trapped.
Like a rat?
Like a rat trapped.
Okay, Daddy, this is going to be our last one. Again, there's over 200. Maybe we'll publish a book someday, but this is the last one for the episode. And the last one goes on to say, I was showing my friend what types of guys that I like, and they told me that I made a size kink up. Confused. I didn't know what they meant at the time, so I searched it up and was shocked to find out that you do have a size kink. Huge muscular men for my pleasure. Small men that are shrunk down.
I don't get the kink. What is it?
So it's macrophilia or microphilia, and I've heard of it.
Both.
Or both. It could be either. Macrophilia is when you see which is when you get bigger. Or microphilia, think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where you get super, super small. This is the epitome of power exchange. Like in the 50-Foot Woman movie, she's powerful, she's big. Lots of people got kinks from that. Whereas in the microphilia, it's almost like an Ant-Man.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're kind of like this minuscule, microscopic little bean where someone's super tiny, you can manhandle them and do whatever they want again against their will.
Or Gulliver's Travels, where he was literally tied down by tiny little people.
Yep, people are into that as well.
That's hot.
I've actually seen a kink.com film that was kind of like that.
Oh yeah?
That was interesting.
Yeah.
It did things for me. Or if it just kind of revolves around muscle and not just stature in general, it could be like a himbo fetish sort of thing. Where big, dumb, muscly, sexy,
Blah, blah, blah.
him, minus his shirt.
Ha.
If I just say words, will you make sounds?
Huh.
But size kink, again, is absolutely a thing that you see in all sorts of media, cartoons, pop culture. It's a trope.
You're a trope.
Thanks. Again, I am so sad that I don't have 5 hours to literally go through each one of these entries, because some of them were super fascinating, super interesting. Maybe we'll do a part 2 if you enjoy this, and maybe we'll ask even for more down below. We'll leave the form open, it's in the description. But I found that there was a lot of shame within the responses.
Of themselves?
Yeah. Whether it was internalized homophobia or just kink phobia in some sort of way. And again, Kevin, we're not talking to you.
Quit yelling at Kevin. No
He
wonder.
likes it. He likes it.
So yeah, that makes sense because lots of people feel like they're the only ones who feel this way, so they must be weird or it must not be accepted in society.
Every single kink that I found within that list, I could do a little search through, and there were multiple people that were into something that was similar or exactly the same.
So none of our fans have Google?
Some people just also don't want to put that Google search out there because Google tracks literally everything, even though they say that they don't. That's a lie.
We're talking to you, Google.
Yeah,
you
Mr.
dirty.
YouTube. Are you kink shaming Google?
Yeah. Well, somebody has to. They kink shame us.
But also, something common that I found within looking through the thread was the term fantasy. Everyone, even though we started out the thread by saying like, hey, this is anonymous, please don't leave any personal information. We are not kink shaming, we are talking about fantasies and regulating and destigmatizing what we're into. Everyone still felt the need to say, this is just a fantasy. I've got to preface this. I got to make sure you're clear that I'm not crazy or weird. But what's wrong with being a little weird with what you're into, so long as you're having fun, being consensual, and doing it with someone that you're, feeling safe with?
But I think lots of people have secret fantasies that they just feel uncomfortable sharing outwardly to other people.
I get that. So if you want to leave your secret fantasies, put them down in the no.
And we'll share them with everyone!
No.
Consensually, of course.
In the end though, I just loved that people were open enough to share certain kinks and fetishes that they had with us. I thought it was eye-opening, but at the same time not surprising. And I think talking through what people are into helps to just have conversation, because a lot of these things had overlap with fantasies, with consensual non-consent, with like being forced into these sexual, pleasing, but also, so embarrassing situations. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, and I really like the pie eating one.
Wait, what? There was no, you made up the pie eating one.
It's my secret fantasy. Don't shame me.
I'm not.
And through this, we kind of learned how different fetishes are formed.
Or at least how the human experience has started talking about and looking into. And some of these studies are still very new. So I look forward to hopefully helping to encourage this discourse, talk more about our kinks and fetishes, and just be a little bit more open about what makes us tick sexually, because I think it's fascinating.
So if you have a secret kink, go to our Patreon and let us know what it is.
And that form will be down below. But also just comment down below what you're into if you feel comfortable, and let's give some love to each other. Remember, no kink shaming. Unless it's at Kevin.
Unless it's Kevin and Kevin's into
you're
it.
good. We're yeah.
You just be as kinky shamed as you want.
How many times can we say kink in this video?
I don't know.
Kink.
Demonetize.
So whether it's a kinky fantasy or you're just living your kinky reality, always have a safe word. And today's safe word is
cherry pie!
Because he's my
Cherry pie! I don't know the rest of the words.
Tastes so sweet, gonna put it in your eye. Sweet
Wait,
cherry
no, don't put it in my
pie.
eye. I don't want it in my eye. That's not sexy.
What if you pied a face? It's gonna get in your eye. Do you know that song's about sex?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Duh.
But beyond that, leave a like down below if you enjoyed this episode.
And if you like his kinky shirt and my homosexual shirt, go to safewordshop.com and get one.
That's the tea. In fact, the same offer code that you can use at Helix Sleep for your very own mattress without the kinks
What?
can also be used at the Safeword shop to get you a special discount on your What's the Safeword merch.
What?
What? And we will see you next time on
What's the safe word?
Bye.
What?
Mine.
What?
Mine. God, react.
Jesus.
God.
Oh my god.
Scared the shit out of me. Bye.
Is that your kink?
That's Mike falling out of chairs.
Some people.
Okay. Fine.